Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Business BoardCast. We are talking about health and safety today. I'm Nicky Larkin. I'm the founder of Orange Accountants, and I have with me the lovely Owen Clark from Peninsula. Hi, Owen.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Nicky.
How are you, Owen? Busy week?
It's been a really good week. Quite busy, but it's nice. It's nice to end the weekend speaking to you and speaking to others as well. It's quite nice. It's a nice day to catch up with things, for sure.
Yeah, it's nice to see you on a Friday because so often you're running up and down the motorway on a Friday to different clients and things. So yeah, so really, really pleased that you're able to make today. Thank you so much for being us in. It's brilliant.
Pleasure. Love doing it.
Super. So what we wanted to do today, as always, please do ask questions as we go along. We will be taking live questions, but what we want to do today is we're going to go through the current guidance, the most sort of guidance that's sort of on people's minds, and any changes to legislation, any particular case law that's happened recently, and just go through some general things that if you are responsible for your health and safety in your business, which as the owner, ultimately you always are, but if you're a manager, you've probably got some responsibilities there too. But do feel free to ask us, ask Owen specific questions, because obviously in different sectors, there's a lot of different detail on your health and safety. Obviously, it's very different health and safety of running an office for, say, accountancy services versus running a care home, for example. So, Owen, where should we kick off today? Obviously we are the government are considering that we still should be plan A for the winter at the moment regarding coronavirus. Sorry to have to start with coronavirus. It feels like we're back to 18 months ago, but we are in a different place. But the reality is the cases are really high in that. So what are you seeing with your clients? Is there anything particularly happening, or they're all sorted because they've been dealing with this for 18 months?
I think first of all, I think it's really important that the businesses ensure that the health and safety. Coronavirus is going to play one small part of an overall picture, and the re-emergence now of the winter cases, the number of cases of COVID going up. Whatever anybody's view of COVID is, as a business owner, there are certain things you have a duty of care to you and your staff and those visiting you, or contractors that are on your site. It's really important that you ensure that you've got the proper policies and procedures in place, but have a plan of action and what you're gonna do next and how you're gonna manage it. Because I think a lot of people were kind of furloughed away, thought coronavirus isn't going to affect us, may have come back and maybe seen the number of cases decline, and because of the decline in cases, they're thinking that that's going to have it's going to now have an effect where they don't have to have as much, or didn't get themselves in a position where they needed to. So I think ultimately getting yourself in a position where you've got your health and safety up to date, and then being prepared if the government turn around, do make a U-turn and say, we're going to need to go back to a space where face masks are mandatory, potentially working from home if it gets really severe. Business, from a business continuity point of view, I know this is something you would talk to your clients an awful lot about. Have some kind of business continuity plan in place for your health and safety and how you're going to manage it. I think, like I said, it's important that there is an overall structure to health and safety rather than being reactive when it comes out, being proactive and knowing that you've got the right things in place. And as a business owner, you're absolutely right. The buck stops with the business owner, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the moment, the government guidance is just guidance at the moment, rather than obviously now it being compulsory. So, but you still, as a business owner, you've got that duty of care. So you've got to make your right decisions for your workforce. But as we know, we're so far in now, it's not just about coronavirus per se. It's also about the mental health of your staff as well. So getting that right of, that it is important to have, they want to have, some people will want to have some interaction and things as well. So it's getting the balance right.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and it's for businesses that there needs to be serious consideration to how you're servicing your clients. So for us at Peninsula, we've got a lot of guys that are out there on the road visiting our clients, whether they're our consultants, whether they're our health and safety consultants, employment consultants. It's about managing that risk and thinking about how you want to be seen and perceived by others. So at the moment, we're still asking all of our guys to do 2 lateral flows a week. I think that provides a little bit of reassurance for clients when you're going out that you're still taking proper procedures and you're still doing things in the proper way. And I think that's important, and to have that noted down when people are doing it. And I appreciate that it's not necessarily always the most comfortable thing, and getting people to do them is difficult. But from a business point of view, it's really important to do that. And touching, as you rightly said, on the mental health side of things from a health and safety point of view, the last 20 months has been unlike no 20 months that probably the vast majority have seen in our lifetime.
Definitely has been unprecedented. People use that word too much, but this is the right way to use it, definitely.
Absolutely, and the Health and Safety at Work Act is really clear. You have a duty of care as an employer to ensure the health and safety and well-being of your staff, and that health and safety and well-being includes the mental health and stress at work. And how are you trying to minimise that stress at work? And let's be honest, a lot of people out there that are probably watching this may have changed how they do business. They might not be from an office anymore. They might be like you and me are sat at home now, working on certain days from home. How are they managing that stress? What policies have they got in place to minimise the risk of stress, but also from people working from home? How do you manage people who are working from home and their health and safety? There is still the ability to do risk assessments from home for things like you, as us sitting here and using our computers. And now there's still that liability placed upon an onus placed upon the business owner to ensure that risk is managed. So business has changed, and I think the important thing is that you are changing with the current conditions and current environment, and making sure that your risk assessments, your method statements, your policies are fit for purpose for how your business has changed over the last 20 months.
Absolutely, we all need to evolve. So as always, we are answering questions live, but we already have it's not a question but a comment, and it's a nice one because it's from Nigel. So Nigel says, we use Peninsula in our last company too. It's essential to have health and safety covered off by experts such as Peninsula. Here, Nigel. Definitely, that's why I know that although we following the health and safety guidance, everything, we know that we have Peninsula come in every year, double check everything's working, tell us what other things we need to do. So people often think we're about employment law and everything. I'm more scared about health and safety. That's the one that you can go to jail for. So absolutely, have Peninsula in your corner. Brilliant, good plug. Thanks, Nigel.
Thanks, Nigel. And from a health and safety point of view, I think it's worth just touching on. And you mentioned about the onus and the business owner. So within a business, you'll have a couple of pieces of terminology that we would use in health and safety. So you'll have what's considered to be the controlling mind of the organisation. I think that's a nice term to put on a business card, controlling mind of the organisation. But the controlling mind is effectively the person with the most responsibility in the business. The controlling mind may then ask somebody to be the competent person. The competent person under the law is a person with knowledge, experience and or qualification to fulfil the role and to make sure that you're meeting the requirements of the Health and Safety at Work Act. Where you don't have necessarily, as lots of businesses don't have somebody with knowledge, experience and qualification within health and safety to make sure you're meeting the demands and needs of the business. The Health and Safety at Work Act says that you should seek somebody to become your competent advisor. And your competent advisor is somebody like Peninsula. So for Nigel in his last business, that's what we do, and what we do for you, Nicky, is provide that peace of mind and reassurance that you know what happens in your business day to day. What we know is the law, the legislation, and what you need to have written down. Because as you say, look, employment law, civil law, worst thing that can happen, go to tribunal and you can lose a hell of a lot of money. Health and safety law, worst thing that can happen, like you said, it's criminal law, and the punishments are a hell of a lot more severe. So it's just about making sure that you've got a common sense approach, and you are meeting with your the demands of the health and safety at work.
Absolutely. So, an area that I wanted to cover off because, you know, a lot of people wouldn't have had Christmas parties last year, but it's coming up to Christmas party season again. Lots of people are deciding whether they're going to put them on again. But actually, there's a lot of health and safety. There's actually a lot of employment law issues with it as well, isn't it, with Christmas? From a health and safety point of view, what would you advise business owners, managers to be looking out for when they plan their Christmas party?
Yeah, it's always an exciting time of the year, and then along comes Owen, health and safety person, who says you need to watch this and you need to watch that.
Here's
Again,
Scrooge.
here comes Scrooge. It is really a common sense. It is a common sense approach. But what you don't want to be, or what I don't want to be doing, and nobody within health and safety wants to be doing, is being the person that is being the Scrooge, is being the person that's the fun police. Look, ultimately, it's about making sure that people understand the responsibilities that they have for themselves and for others. So, you know, maybe sending out some messaging before you have your Christmas party about not drinking to excess, reminders about silly things that not you'd hope that people have learned by now, but not jumping in your car after you've had a few drinks, making sure that you are, you know, from a health and safety and employment law point of view, as you know, I cover across the both. You know, you're a direct representation of your business. So, you know, ensuring that, one, not drinking to excess. Two, if you're having it at maybe a hotel or somewhere like that, and there's an overnight stay, you're staying at a hotel afterwards, maybe just reminding people about when they get up in the morning, or having, you know, certainly for us at Peninsula, where we do have the requirement at our conference to stay over, we put something on in the morning as well. So we have a late breakfast, a get together, just to let people, you know, it's a common sense approach, letting people get some alcohol out of their system if they've had a good night the night before, not jumping in their cars, and reminding them about that in the morning as well. And then also things like, you know, responsibilities around potentially low people being on their own, last person to leave. Have you organised, or is there some kind of, you know, system for people leaving? How are you going to know when everybody's up and left? Have you got somebody that's responsible, maybe not drinking, whether by choice or whether that's a long-term decision that they're not a drinker? Is that person willing to be a bit more responsible around others that are drinking? Watch out for other people. So I think it's just a bit of a common sense approach in line with the employment law side of things, reminding people about harassment and getting jolly at Christmas parties and things like that. Just, yeah, common sense approach, and sending some information out when you're sending out maybe the list of what you can choose from the menu. Just send them those bits as well. But yeah,
some good sensible guidance. I mean, I was shocked. There's obviously lots of award ceremonies happening at the moment, which obviously if you send your employees to those as well, you've still got a responsibility. I was actually shocked when I was looking at one that I was invited to, which I didn't go, but the amount of alcohol per table, you know, well, for someone like me who doesn't go out that much, I would have been on the floor with the amount that was just, you know, just laid on as normal. So, you know, you have got to get really clear guidance on if somebody's representing you at something, at a function, and there's alcohol, you need some clear guidance of what's acceptable, and what your you're right. It's
that direct crossover between employment law and health and safety. You have still got whether they're coming to a Christmas party, whether they're going out as a representation for you for an awards night, whether they're going out for some corporate hospitality, whatever it is, they're still technically potentially on work time because they're doing it, you know, for the business. So again, what have you done to mitigate risk? Have you reminded people? Have you told them? Have you provided them maybe some journey home if you are expecting them to drink with clients, etc.? What are you doing? But anything like that, if anybody wants any advice, you know, specifically on that kind of thing, please feel free to drop me in.
Absolutely, and we'll because this is being recorded, so if you're watching the recording, there should be at the end. I'll make sure, Kirsty, please make sure that you put in the end Owen's contact details so that people can easily find Owen. He is on a LinkedIn, Owen Clark, without an E, as it says there. Just say so Owen Clark, Associate Director of Peninsula. So easy to find. He's always great to ask for some general questions and things. So that's great. So I was also thinking this time of year we're coming up to the season where there's floods. When then a bit longer, there might be some snow and ice. Certainly in more northern parts of the country, there will be. What can you remind us on what's the best practice health and safety wise regarding extreme weather situations?
Yeah, and I think it does. It happens, doesn't it? It gets this kind of year. Suddenly, all of a sudden, we look outside and it's quite sunny and it's quite nice outside, and all of a sudden, the next day, it's frozen. I think look, when people are going to work again, it's having some documentation around whether they're using a company vehicle. So maybe that's leased, or maybe that's something that they've hired, or is a vehicle in a pool car, or it's their own car. Is reminding them that actually, if they are traveling to and from work, or whether when they get to work they're going out to visit clients, that they have a duty of care to themselves and to the business to ensure that the vehicle that they're jumping in is going to be safe and secure to make the journey, whatever that journey is. So again, things like making sure that there's enough tread on that, silly things like enough tread on the tyres, making sure you've got enough screen wash and things like that. So the vehicle's being serviced and MOT'd. But importantly for the business, if people are making journeys for work other than just to and from the office, but maybe going out at lunch times and doing some work in between, or going out and visiting clients, you do have copies of your employees' driving licenses, you do have copies of their services, insurance, and making sure that the insurance is covered for not only just for personal use, but is covered for business use as well. So yeah, some really good safety policies around in a car, and making sure that you're not actually making unnecessary journeys where there are weather warnings and things like that. I think the plus side of what we've just experienced in the last 20 months is, like we go back to again, there is the ability for some people to very quickly pick up and work from home, and that shouldn't be ignored, because actually that's a really good thing. That actually, rather than people taking a lot longer because everybody's being a lot slower on the road, is it more worthwhile them staying at home and you're getting a bit more work from home? So yes.
Okay, we've just had a question come in from Liz. Here it is. What is the health and safety advice if someone is working at home, but their child's at home, for example, half term, which, I mean, a lot of people are on half term next week, I believe. Some people have already started, but a lot have got half term next week. So is there any particular advice for those that are now in the hybrid space, but they will be working with their children around?
Top tip I learned over lockdown: don't strangle them. Or if you don't, just make sure nobody can see you if you are. Because let's be honest, when lockdown happened and we all had our kids there coming in the background, I remember I was doing one of these kind of sessions, but I had 200 people on the screen, and my son decided to come in with no shirt on, which then maroon. And I want to strangle them. So what health and safety advice? Don't strangle is a good start.
That's a good start. Okay.
Good start. Yeah. Don't strangle your children. Apparently, it's not okay. But in all seriousness, I think when people are working from home, this is again where we cross over between employment law and health and safety. And Nicky, you'll have experienced this with some of your staff, maybe. Can we make some flexible? Can we be flexible at the times of when people work? Do they need to do it within core hours? Can they do it outside of those core hours? Is there some flexibility in that? People may be using up some of their holiday in order to look after the children, or certain times being made available. From a health and safety point of view, when the child is home, is a really difficult one, because obviously we're not used to children being at home when you're working. I think it's again goes back to a common sense approach of that. Lockdown did teach, I was jesting about strangling children, but actually the one thing that lockdown taught us is, I think we all become a lot better at working in an environment that we're unused to, and embracing that. But obviously, hopefully, if you're working from home, you're working on the computer, making sure you get up, you take regular breaks. That obviously, if you are a single parent, not leaving the child on their own, is there something you can do to bring them in when you work and facilitate some homework at the same time? But there's no specific guidance on how to manage it at home. Moreover, a crossover between employment law and health and
Well, I
safety.
mean, I've always gone by the basis, as in, regardless whether they're working at home or in the office, if the child is primary school or preschool age, the younger they are, the more care they need. So, if they're working, if you were working in the office, you'd have to have childcare. So, I would expect you would have to have childcare for the younger ages. It shouldn't be letting them alone on their own devices while
of course,
you're working. Obviously, it's more flexible as they get older. That it is actually more flexible, but that's how I sort of usually see it, because I don't want to ever be in the situation that somebody's been on some Zoom call and their 2-year-old has done something awful. That's just not the right thing. So, but that, again, like you said before, offering the flexibility of time, that works well. So, where you've got 2 parents working from home, that can then work, because then they can do tag it.
And we you talked about case law earlier and things that had happened. There was that truly awful case last year in the middle of lockdown where a mother was on Zoom. Her child had gone. She was on a Zoom meeting. The child had been playing out in the back garden. They had a duck pond or a pond, and sadly the child drowned whilst the mother was on. And it's truly horrific. So I think that rather than talking about how can you make your home safer, hopefully we'll make our home safe for our children. But moreover, having that flexibility between you and your partner, if you've got one, or your husband, or whatever your circumstances are, making your work fit around looking after the children, and then hopefully, if they are an age where they can knuckle down with work, and getting older into the teenage years, having them around shouldn't be hopefully as much of an issue and a problem.
Yeah, so I hope that answers your question, Liz. Thank you. And do send any more in that anyone thinks of. One thing that I've been seeing recently in the press, in sort of business press, is there's and I believe it should come under health and safety, because it more affects possibly the mental health rather than anything, but whether there needs to be more guidance regarding how much you're using your being available for your email, your laptops and your phones. I've seen quite a lot of companies have been implementing policies so that they shouldn't, out of work hours, you shouldn't be on them, whether they actually use the technology to block them in that time, or like we've been starting to try to do, if somebody is happening to work a bit late but wants to be courteous to other people that aren't, put on a delayed timer for the email so that they don't keep feeling that constant pressure of, oh, it's another email. Have you come across any particular guidance that people have been putting in place, or any issues from that area?
Yeah, so there is some guidance that's come out. It actually fell under employment law about the ability to not be available all of the time and basically switch off, because as we've all found over the last 20 months, it's not that hard to walk back into your office when you've been in there and just check your emails and just do this or just pick up the phone. With modern society the way it is, being able to pick up, and absolutely it's a health and safety issue, because ultimately we're talking about the European Brexit, no Brexit. It was European. It's enshrined on our statute book as well. But the European rights to how many hours you're working in a working week, so 48-hour working opt-outs. I think it's important that people have the ability. It shouldn't be in your contractual terms and conditions a requirement that they work over 48 hours. It is an opt-out. It's not you can automatically opt people in, and
Indeed.
because of that. And because of that, you need to make sure that they are sticking within those guidelines. So the expectation is you're not asking them to work more than 48 hours in a working week, because if there was an accident or an incident or something that happened because somebody was tired and had been overworked and had worked more hours, the liability does fall with the employer. And especially for those, I suppose, a word of warning on the same similar note around working hours. If you have an employee that works, say, 30 hours a week, and you know he's then going and working somewhere else, say for 15 hours at Christmas to make a little bit more money, the liability is still on the employer, where the majority, the bulk of hours are found. The liability still falls with them to ensure that they're not going over those 48-hour working opt-outs, or they're made aware of it. So in your contractual terms and conditions, where it says about other employment, you must inform us if you're going to take any other employment. If they take other employment, right, Nicky, you're working for us for 30 hours. How many hours are you working in XYZ on top of that? Right, you are falling outside of the 48-hour working opt-out. We have a duty of care to you from a health and safety point of view. And we wouldn't like you to take more than X amount of hours.
I refuse to approve those now. I used to, but I've had too many circumstances where I've seen somebody go and do something else as well. Like you said, they might have something, it's more of a hobby thing, but it is still a work thing. And it's just, it's not worth it if then they end up being burnt out and things. So I tend to,
and they become an increased risk to you.
Not approve that now.
Yeah, and they can become an increased risk to you, don't they? While they're sitting in your office, while they're sitting in the office, where they're driving home or they're going to see a client, they're an increased risk to you and to your business. So again, that's where you've got to risk assess as to whether there is a benefit. Remember, health and safety boils down to a couple of things: reasonable practicability.
Yeah.
Did you do everything that was reasonable and everything was practicable to ensure that person's health and safety whilst under your duty of care? And what you're doing by saying, no, actually, we don't want to do that, is you're being reasonable and you're being practicable in ensuring the health and safety of that person that you've got to look after.
Yeah. So we've got another question which sort of follows in nicely from what we've just been talking about. Guy Smith, the mystery man, no picture. Some employers have adopted different style workplaces to help with the mental health of their employees and to boost creative ideas for breakout zones, etc. Yeah, you particularly see this in tech companies and things as well, which is really good. What are your thoughts?
Love them. I think anything. I think they're great. I think anything where you're embracing a different way of working. I think we've seen them. Like you talk about tech companies, they've been also rife in lots of agency work in marketing agencies for a long time. There's also some businesses out there that have sleep pods for people that actually want to get a quick 10-minute power nap. Because suddenly studies are proven, and they believe in the studies that are proven. Once somebody is less tired, they become more creative, and if they're tired at certain points, they can go and have it. Whether I necessarily agree with sleep pods to that extent, I'm not so sure. But I think creative areas, if you're in that kind of industry where you're looking for creative people, the more inspiration you can give them, the better. Lots of people have kind of like table tennis tables and pool tables and arcade games and machines and things like that. Again, not to be the fun police, just make sure that you've risk assessed the people that are using them and what those creative areas are doing. As long as you're doing that, more power to businesses that are going to create those things. I think they're a good idea.
Absolutely. And another thing, I mean, mine might be a controversial viewpoint, but I want people to be having a life outside of work, with friends and family and everything. Yeah. And we're building up a much, much bigger trainee amount of people. And so sometimes now we're getting, when we're taking on trainees, about what is the social life. And to be honest, yes, it's nice for them to socialize a bit, but I'm not actually for doing huge amounts of social life within work, because I want them to have a balance out of work as well. So I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are, Owen, because you see some of huge companies, and I remember when I was in some blue chips, that was your life. Blue chips. It was your life. You were working super long hours and then you were socializing with your colleagues afterwards.
Yeah.
I wonder what your thoughts are, and it might not be,
I definitely think there's a balance. I think there's definitely a balance, and I think in certain circumstances, I agree with you that I've come from the world of professional football. Some of those guys, that's an intrinsic part of who they are. They need to be a team on and off the field. They will socialise with each other because it's quite a close-knit group. There are other circumstances where I think you're right. People have the ability to step away and spend some time with their family and friends is important to recharge their batteries. That's why I'm a big believer when people are away from work, they should be away from work. They shouldn't be jumping on a mobile every 5 seconds. When they are having time away, it's proper time away, and it's proper time away with them, their family, etc. I think it's personal circumstances and other people's viewpoints. I get. I do understand where you're coming from, but I think certain industries there is a propensity to want to go and socialise in those, and it tends to be also in younger people where you're spending a hell of a lot of time in one place working together. Strong relationships are formed in those areas.
I mean, that 30 minutes has flown by, so I'm just going to finish off with a thought from a comment from Guy, the mystery man Guy. He said, "I was so pleased you said that, Nicky. He needs his spare time for Brackley Town FC because he is a fan there." So I'm sure they probably are playing this weekend. So good luck to Brackley Town FC. What are you up to this weekend? Anything fun, Owen?
Talking of football, I'll be following my guilty pleasure, which is Oxford United. Watching my son go and play a bit of football, and then a bit of socialising with my friends, non-work related friends.
Indeed. Me too. You should have my piano lesson, piano practice, and then various different other family things. Anyway, lovely to see you, Owen. Thank you so much.
See you, Nicky.
And as we said before, any questions for Owen that you'd like to talk to him directly, whether it's health and safety or employment law, you can contact him via LinkedIn, Owen Clark on LinkedIn, and we'll try to make sure that we put there was boo on Oxford United. No, I want everyone to do well. Thank you very much, Owen, and cheerio to everybody. Next week is actually Guy is going to be the host, and I am going to be the speaker, and I am going to be discussing the client life cycle. So hopefully that'll be something of interest there about the client life cycle for people. Anyway, thank you so much again, Owen, and see you soon. And thank you for tuning in, and cheerio.
Cheerio. Take care.